Ready? Okay. Hello and welcome. My name is Karishma Patel and I'm your host for the It's Not Selfish podcast. I'm so happy that you're here today. And today I have a very, very special guest with me. So let's welcome her in. So today with me is Aishwarya Balaji. Is that I pronounce her?
Aishwarya Balaji.
Aishwarya Balaji. Sorry. And we're going to talk about her and some other things like what she does and how we're going to tap into our inner self and anxiety. And it's a really good episode. So Aishwarya, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah. That's such a broad question. I don't know where to start. So I have been in the startup space for the last 7-8 years. I've also been in kind of like that mindful, spiritual, personal development space as well. And my journey has really been this, I want to say like this wave of, going so hard, like growing up in Boston and then New York and SF, like really like high powered cities and like being in that like hustle culture that was really like preached for the last decade.
Yeah.
And getting super burnt out while I was building my last business and then kind of took a step back, really went down the introspective rabbit hole, and then eventually ended up landing me with starting a Fresh Sip, which is the current startup that I'm building, which is a non-alcoholic marketplace. So it's been a really fun journey throughout.
So how did you start a Fresh Sip?
Yeah. So the non-alcoholic adult beverage movement has been definitely growing in the last few years.
That's all I hear about lately. It's kind of crazy.
But when I started it was like, mid-pandemic. It was end of 2020. Everybody was like, you're starting a startup in the non-alcoholic space. Isn't that like, why would people want something that's like sophisticated when they opt for water? And I had my own personal journey prior to that where I cut back drinking quite a bit because of just like health conditions that came up. I didn't want to add more toxins into my body when I was like navigating that process. And with my last startup, I was truly burnt out. Like I was listening to other people's opinions. I wasn't listening to myself. I was just so like lost. And in that process, my body saw the brunt of it. It got sick. And so me navigating the non-alc world, like navigating the world without drinking kind of showed me, okay, wait, like this is who I am. This is how I can like be in this space. And since I have that like startup brain, I've always been super like early to trends and saw that this wave was starting to pop off in Europe and thought, hey, I think eventually it's going to hit the States.
Yeah, and it did.
It did.
It's like going a little crazy. So with the Fresh Sip, do you have a partner?
I do. So I have a business partner. We actually met in college.
Wow.
She was my dance team captain.
Love that.
And I remember thinking she was super scary when when I was at tryouts. She's not that scary anymore.
Yeah.
But like it's been a decade.
Yeah, you guys did start a business together.
Yes, exactly. But I don't always suggest starting a business with somebody because it can, like a friend especially, you don't want to ruin friendships. It's kind of like roommates.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you don't want to like live with the person that you're friends with.
Business and personal, it can get really tricky really fast. Yeah. Especially with old relationships and then old feelings coming up versus like two people are changing at the same time. So
totally.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, wow. Well, I love a Fresh Sip. I had a beverage of yours because you gave it to us in a goodie bag, I think during Diwali, and I was like, damn, this is really good. So how do you come up with flavors and or go try? Where does the manufacturing happen?
So we're an aggregator and a curator for the space. So we don't actually create our own beverages. We work with like over 70 plus brands in the non-alc space. So we are basically curators. We have an online platform, and then we work with different brands depending on the pop-ups we do and depending on what physical footprint we want to keep out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any big steps for a Fresh Sip?
Oh my gosh, so many. We are.
If you want to share.
Yes, I can share a little. I can't share the specifics. We do have some exciting things coming up. Let's just say we plan to have more of a physical footprint in 2024 and 2025.
Ooh, yeah. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
So you said that before a Fresh Sip, it was taking a toll on your health. Is it just mental or physical as well?
Are they really like separate?
Just a little bit, but yeah, I guess like they do come together. So,
I think
so can you like elaborate a little bit on that? What, like how or why?
Yeah.
What was going on?
so. I think a lot of it was like mental manifestations that like, or like physical manifestations of like mental issues or mental challenges, right? I think over the last decade, I really was starting to like, I think I was chasing external validation. There was a lot of like wanting to be a certain way because of other people.
Oh yeah,
you know, and
with
like
social media too. Oof.
totally. I remember it was like the day after I gave my TED talk, I was like, okay, like now what? I couldn't even enjoy that for more than like 24 hours.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit. I forgot that you did a TED talk. That's freaking awesome. Just
Thank
taking
you.
a moment for that, because that's like one of my goals in life, to do a TED talk.
You'll get there. Come on. This is basically a TED talk, a mini TED talk.
What was we'll go back to the mental health, but what was the TED talk about?
So I had built, I was running an innovation lab in the Web3 space. So it was on blockchain and emerging tech and the potential use cases and ramifications of it back in like 2018. So it's funny because like I don't talk about that part of my world at all. I don't even know if you know that.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm learning something new about you today.
Yeah, I was like such a tech nerd, right? I was like in the hardcore like emerging tech space, and it was especially in like 2017, 2018.
Wow.
It was so male dominated.
Yeah.
I was constantly trying to prove myself. I was also 25 when I launched that business.
That's pretty freaking awesome, though.
It's crazy.
And then you do a TED talk. That's fucking
It was
amazing.
wild.
Which it's so crazy that you say, I don't know that part about you. It's true, because the part I see right now, I would never think that you were a part of that world. Like, it is a completely different being in front of me.
No, and thank God.
You didn't like it that much?
I think I didn't know who I was. And I think this kind of ties into just being Indian.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we are like taught growing up to appease other people around you.
Oh, yeah.
You're not given a sense of like
Nope.
identity. And I think that's super challenging. And I never asked myself, hey, do I like this? Do I want to do this? So I just assumed if other people liked what I was doing,
Then
I liked it too,
Yeah.
right? And so I think I was 27 the first time I asked myself, hey, do I like this? Is this what I want to do?
Wow.
And like that was like, whoa, I didn't know. I didn't have an answer to that because I didn't know what I liked and what I didn't like. And so I went through this process of like trial and error basically to figure out what those things were.
So how did you get to that question? Like, do I like this? Was it like someone told you, therapy? What helped you get there?
Trying to like put myself back to that moment. I just remember it being like an like, whoa,
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this. Like,
Even
I don't,
after a TED talk, even after the success, you're just like,
yeah. And it wasn't like, it was like small things. Like, do I like this shirt?
Yeah.
Do I like this location?
Yeah.
Do I like this person? Right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I kept looking externally to give me validation. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is in, this is out. Because I was like kind of like brought up to kind of conform, like, oh, like act like this in front of these people.
Yeah.
In school, act like that in front
Yeah.
of those people. Right? And so we're playing so many characters subconsciously.
which is so crazy, because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then I started asking myself on the small things because I had no idea on the big things. And it was like, okay, do I like this? What does that feel like? Oh, how do I feel like when I'm dancing? How do I feel like when I'm working? And I eventually realized that I was draining myself being surrounded by people in the Web3 space. Also back then, the space was filled with a lot of like bad actors, a lot of people that weren't necessarily there for the
Good reasons. Yeah.
and I think I'm a little bit more of an empath. I know you are as
yeah.
well. And being around that energy, I think also affected my physical health.
Yeah, it drains you.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes you sick, and you don't even think that it makes you sick, because like mentally starts tormenting you, and then your body feels it,
Oh, yeah.
and you don't realize it until it's like really
No.
late, and you're like, holy crap. And then you start asking yourself, do I really enjoy this?
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, my body is now telling me that my hormones are haywire, my thyroid's haywire, like all of these random things are like out of whack. And I was seeing it in like my energy and like all of these other issues that started to compound. And it was a forced like reckoning of like, oh, take a step back.
Yeah.
And until that point, I think a lot of people need that trigger.
Yeah.
And that trigger or that like life event is what causes them to take like a pause and step back.
Yeah. Because I know people often ask me like, how does that happen? It's honestly, like you said, it's a trigger. It's a one moment in your life. Like you don't know.
Yeah.
But then it happens and you're like, it's a switch. Like, do I like this? Do I want to do this? And then you really ask the hard questions, right? And then you have to go a different path that other people may not like, but it makes you happy.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. You went a different path.
Totally.
You started a startup and you're also doing a bunch of other things. So let's get into that now. You were telling me before this episode, and I know you personally, so I'm just going to go off of that. But you were telling me that you're EFT. Is that correct? EFT?
Yeah. EFT tapping.
EFT tapping. So can you elaborate on what that is, what you do?
Sure.
And you can teach us a little bit.
Yes, for sure. So I guess like I'll tell you why I even got into EFT tapping.
What, and teach us.
Yes, all of the above.
All of it.
So when I kind of renounced myself from the like high tech world, I like accidentally moved to Bali. I like did a lot of things where
accidentally moved to Bali.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have to elaborate on that too.
It was one of those things where I meant to go there for a few weeks and then I kept getting signs and I'm like totally woo, right? So like once you're getting all these crystal clear signs from the universe, you're like, I am staying here longer than I wanted to.
How long did you say?
3 months, 3.5, something like that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And this was right before the pandemic. I came back to San Francisco the day we went into lockdown.
Stop.
Yeah.
So you were probably like, damn, I wish I was in Bali.
Oh, 1000%. SF was the first place to go down in lockdown too. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Sorry, I totally forgot you were in Bali for 3 months. Also, one thing about Aish, before we continue, she is everywhere. Every day. Like, I don't even know where she is every week. Okay. Like, this was so hard to get her here.
Wait. But on that note, I am really trying to like
to be better
to
in one
anchor.
place.
Yeah. We are working on anchoring in 2024.
Okay. I'm proud of you. You've been in Austin for a good few weeks, so I'm proud of you. It's a step forward.
Yes, we're working on it.
Anyway, let's go back to the
EFT. Yes.
EFT.
So when I was in Bali, I learned Reiki. And then a year or two later, I became a yoga teacher, and I like went and did my yoga teacher certification.
You're just like,
I know,
surprises right now. I knew some things about you, but I didn't know like all of this. Okay, and you're just surprising me. Like literally, wow.
It's like I'm one of those people that there's no point in me just listing accolades, right? Like in this situation, it's like, okay, these are why I did this. And so like Reiki, like yoga, they all kind of speak to that esoteric spiritual side. And that really grounds me. And I think a lot of people, especially in Silicon Valley, in New York, in like even Austin, right? In high-powered places, we are constantly on the go.
And you forget to like be.
Yeah, you forget to be. You also like don't actually realize that you have like we think there's a cookie cutter way to achieve success, and that is just false.
Yeah, it is.
And
I agree.
And I think most people, they have a hard time connecting their passions with like actual market opportunity, and it's because they're so focused on tangibly, how do I make this work financially, how do I make this work like in terms of optics, like all of that, and they lose sight of like what is driving them. And if you don't have that internal drive and you're not managing like all of your internal emotions, you are blocking yourself every step of the way, and you are more likely to burn out rather than build something sustainable.
Yeah, it catches up to you.
Totally.
And then you burn.
Absolutely.
It's the worst.
When I left that Web3 space, I was like, never again am I building startups. Like, and here we are, right? Like, but
I feel like it goes with your path.
Yes.
This new startup.
And we are building it so differently.
Yeah.
We are not.
You've learned something new.
I mean, I hope so. And so, yeah, like I think EFT tapping, I used it with a lot of my freelance coaching and consulting clients, and it was something that I was using a lot for myself, and I realized it could be really powerful for them. And so what EFT tapping is, is basically called the emotional freedom technique. And tapping, you can equate it to acupuncture in a way. So the acupuncture uses the Chinese meridian system, and EFT tapping does the same thing. So we basically have like different points of like energy that flows through our body. And so when we experience something, say like an instance or like an uncomfortable situation, we experience it in 3 ways. We experience it mentally, we experience it emotionally, and we experience it physically. And we often focus on the emotional and mental part of it. And we're like, oh, I've mentally moved on. Oh, I've physically moved on. But we forget that we've also our body has physically experienced it as well. So like, for example, say you had like a falling out with somebody and you haven't seen this person for 4 or 5 years. You're like, oh, like I've mentally moved on. I've emotionally moved on. And then say you run into them in the grocery store. Your body tenses, you feel uncomfortable.
Your anxiety rises. I know that feeling way too well.
Yeah. And that is straight because your body also experienced that.
Yeah.
And so we have to remove these subconscious patterns or these blocks like at the physical level. And so that's what tapping actually allows us to do, is to remove the different blocks as we tap through the specific points. And so that can be really, really powerful for not just like specific instances, but also limiting beliefs, like fears, anxieties, physical body pain sometimes. It's like a plethora of things.
So then how do you do that?
Okay, so
let's do, for instance, I have lots of anxiety.
Okay.
It's definitely calmer than it used to be. Lots of therapy, lots of journaling. But I have recently learned about tapping. I do it before I go to sleep. Sometimes when I'm really anxious, I'll start like tapping parts of my body that I've learned through TikTok. Thank you. But how can I calm my nervous system down?
So there's a couple of different techniques. We'll start with the tapping piece, since that's what we're talking about.
We're going to have to describe every single thing because not everyone will be able to see this.
Absolutely. So the first thing I do if I'm having like a one-on-one session is asking you like, okay, you're saying you're feeling anxiety and you want to calm your anxiety. I will ask you, when do you feel anxiety? In what circumstances? What triggers it? How does it feel in your body? And so, if you want to answer some of those questions, I can be more specific.
Okay. Let's go with the first question. Sorry, I forgot. What was it? When do I feel anxiety? Let's say before a podcast episode, but like more, I feel like it's nervous anxiety, not like anxious.
Okay.
Is that different?
I mean, no, it's still
a type of anxiety, right?
And I would ask you, why do you feel nervousness before a podcast?
Because I feel like I'm not going to be good enough.
So usually there is like a root. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
I'm not
I don't have anything to offer.
Enough.
Yeah.
I don't know how to hold space, like whatever, right? Those beliefs.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I didn't mention about tapping is we actually focus on negative beliefs, and we say negative statements when we're first starting to tap. And this is so counterintuitive to what everybody on TikTok and in social media says in terms of the affirmations they say. They say, I am the best, I am amazing, I am this, I am that. And positive affirmations are amazing. However, the reason we say negatives, like we actually start by tapping out loud negative statements, is because, okay, say I say, I am the most amazing person in the world. I can say that all day long. You can say that all day long. Do I believe that? No.
Yeah. And we got to say something that we believe, right?
Right. But even if you want that, how do we make that statement feel more true? It's by actually acknowledging the parts of the statement that feel untrue. And so when we are talking about the negative statements, we're actually removing those parts that make that positive statement feel untrue. So eventually we do start bringing the positive statements in, but at the beginning we do start with the negative. So we can do an example.
Yeah, let's go. Okay. I'm ready. I always love when people put me on the spot. It's happening a lot every episode. Someone's putting me on the spot. I'm like, oh shit.
Okay. So you said you have some anxiety and nervousness.
Yes.
And it's before the podcast, and it's because you feel like you are not.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And give me other words.
The one that, not holding space.
Not good enough is
not good enough. Not good enough. And
where does
value.
Value. What about value?
Like I feel like I'm not bringing value
enough
to the
value.
table. Yeah.
Okay. And what does that feel like in your body?
Where does it feel?
Where do you feel that anxiety?
Ooh, like in my heart and my chest.
Okay.
And Not in my, it's all right here. Like,
Okay.
it sits in my chest.
The tightness.
Yeah, and my
the
shoulders.
sensation, shoulders. Okay. So we're going to do a really quick round, okay? Don't want to take you this the entire hour.
No,
but
no, you can go. You can go. We have time.
But okay, we'll do one round, and
Okay.
I would say like 0 to 10, how much, like where does this number hit?
Ooh,
10 being the highest.
7 to 8.
7 to 8.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty high.
All right. And sometimes the number will go up after the first
Yeah.
round. Sometimes they'll go down. So we'll see how it is today. And so all you're going to do is repeat
I'm
after me.
scared. Okay.
And I will say where I'm tapping so
Okay.
people can follow along.
Okay. And do I tap with you?
You tap with me.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to tap on the side of your hand.
Okay.
And it can be either hand. It doesn't matter.
On the pinky side.
On the pinky side.
Yes.
Yes. So repeat after me. Even though I have some anxiety,
I have some anxiety,
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
honor where I am today.
honor where I am today.
Does that feel truthful?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of there.
All right.
You know, like the imposter syndrome is slowly leaving.
No, I'm saying, does that statement feel true?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does.
Even though
Even though we're still tapping on the
we're
pinky.
still tapping, I'll tell you when we're switching. Even though
Even though
there are so many sensations in my body,
there are so many sensations in my body,
I accept myself.
I accept myself. I
And
like
last
that.
time,
I like
even though
Even though
there is so much imposter syndrome
there's so much imposter syndrome,
and I feel held back,
I feel held back.
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love,
love,
honor, and accept myself.
honor, and accept myself. Are you gonna make me cry?
Might.
This is so good. Stop.
All right. Okay, we're going to the inner corner of your eyebrow.
Okay.
And we're going to tap.
On inner corner, as in towards the middle.
Like right at the corner of your eyebrow. Yeah.
Right side or
Or
wherever,
it doesn't matter,
whichever
right
side.
or
Okay.
left. And so, you know, why don't I go through the points so then people know, and then I can go through the tapping so we're not stopping each time.
Okay.
So inner corner of your eyebrow, you move your fingers all the way to the outer corner.
Okay.
So right on the side of the eye, underneath the eye,
Oh, I like
on that
underneath
bone?
the eye.
upper lip, chin, collarbone, and then right underneath your arm. And finally, we end on the top of the head. So I'll say where it is, but we will go a little faster.
How many times do you
Until I stop talking, until I move to the next one.
But is there like 1, 2, 3, 4? One? It's just
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Don't overthink it.
just making sure.
So all the anxiety,
All the anxiety,
all the anxiety
all the anxiety,
under the eye, all of the anxiety and sensations in my body,
all of the anxiety and sensation in my body,
upper lip, all of these emotions,
all of these emotions,
chin, all of these feelings,
all of these feelings,
these feelings of anxiety,
these
collarbone.
feelings of anxiety.
Under the arm, there is so much going on,
There's so much going on,
and I don't know what to do.
and I don't know what to do.
It's scary.
It's scary.
It's so scary.
It's so scary.
I feel the tightness in my chest,
I feel the tightness in my chest,
all the emotions,
all the emotions,
the pressure in my chest.
the pressure in my chest.
The sensations don't feel good.
The sensations don't feel good.
I don't like having anxiety.
I don't like having anxiety.
But I have anxiety.
But I have anxiety.
I want it to go away.
I want it to go away.
It's been a problem for a long time.
It's been a problem for a long time.
I don't feel good enough.
I don't feel good enough.
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough.
I don't have value to bring.
I don't have value to bring.
I'm scared I don't have value to bring.
I'm scared I don't have value to bring.
Why do I have so much imposter syndrome?
Why do I have so much imposter
I
syndrome?
feel it
I feel it
in my mind.
in my
I
mind.
feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
It's holding me back.
It's holding me back.
I know I'm meant for more,
I know I'm meant for more,
but it's scary
but it's scary
to be honest with myself
to be honest with myself
and actually admit
and actually admit
that I have anxiety.
that I have anxiety.
Okay. So we can stop that.
Whew,
How did that feel?
Feels good.
Yeah.
You know, because it was different. It's like you said, it's not affirmations. It's accepting what you're feeling.
It's accepting your
also-
current state.
Yeah,
in
and
a
also
way.
telling yourself that it's okay to feel that way.
Right. And the interesting thing is, as you
I feel like, whoo,
oh yeah,
something
sometimes
just left my body
sometimes people yawn a ton when they're doing this. Sometimes people
because your
cry.
nervous system is calming down.
It's energy leaving.
Yeah.
You're moving the
Felt my
physical
like
energy.
numbness a little bit.
Tingly.
Yeah, a little tingly.
Tingly sensations. Sometimes new thoughts come up. Sometimes if we go really deep, it can trigger the number to go higher.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means
No.
we need to tap through it
Yeah.
and bring it down. So eventually you want to get that number to go to 0. And the fun part is once it gets to 0, that pattern is literally broken. Doesn't mean your imposter syndrome is gone, but that avenue of what was causing that piece of that imposter syndrome is reduced.
That's amazing.
And so I love this technique. I use it a lot. I probably should use it more on myself than I do for others, but.
So do you do sessions?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, everyone hearing, I just went through this like for 5 minutes?
Not even 5, yeah. Like a quick
3 minutes. And I feel a little lighter.
Yeah.
Not like, oh my God, because I think we need more time together, but I do feel a little lighter. And anyone listening, if you want to go through a session for EFT tapping, I highly recommend hitting Aish up. I'll also tag her in this video, the Aish, at the Aish, and you can message her and she'll be available to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
I love it.
No,
because here's the thing, right? Like when, like I work with a lot of like leaders, entrepreneurs, and just people that like have big goals.
Yeah.
And we are the only ones like standing in our ways when we're trying to accomplish something.
Yeah.
We have more resources than like anybody at any given point in time.
Yeah.
And so we know what it takes to build something. If we're not doing it, if we're not showing up for ourselves, it's because there's something like subconsciously holding us back.
Yeah.
And we can feel guilty and guilt ourselves and be self-critical all day long. That's not productive. Mm-mm. And so this is just a fun tool to actually get out of our way.
No, this is amazing. We have therapy, traditional therapy, you have like journaling, meditation, but this is something you've unlocked today for me as well. And everyone listening, I'm sure people are like, what the heck is that? And this was pretty cool.
And it's a little weird, right? You're like tapping your body,
like
tapping your head.
I'm like, it's like Simon Says, I'm like literally following you, but it's really, it helps.
Yeah.
Because I told you I used to do this. Well, whenever I have a super like crazy anxiety at night, I'll just start tapping. I don't know where I'm tapping, but I know for me, it feels good on my chest and under my eyes.
So, what? I'll tell you a little like fun science fact.
Oh yes. Tell us.
So if you're tapping on your chest, especially if you are tapping like here,
right?
Yeah. This is actually where your vagus nerve is, right? So it's like.
That's what we were talking about before this episode. Yeah.
And so instead of like, I actually found that when I feel really anxious, more than tapping, if you just like massage this area
right on your chest,
it's very quick and effective to reduce anxiety. Wow. The other thing we can go into was like pranayama, there's also like, there's Chandra Bedana, there's Surya Bedana, which is like focused on like the feminine side or the masculine side, which is the moon or the sun. There's so many different techniques that we can go into.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I'm learning so much today. I feel like I'm in class right now. Like, you're just teaching me everything. So then there was something else we were talking about. We're talking about your EFT. We're talking about your business. But I want to go into something you mentioned, like before we started this episode. I asked you, like, what are some things you want to talk about? I like to ask my guests because I want them to have free range and have more like freedom to whatever they want to share. I don't want to keep making you say the same things that you're probably saying on other podcasts. I want to open the space for you. So I know you're talking about something about egos and repeating cycles. So how do you want to start the ego talk? I love going into the ego. Me and my therapist go into it and I'm like, whoa. Because ego, there's a misconception. Ego isn't always bad. And when we hear the word ego, everyone lights up like, yeah, that person has ego, and in a negative way. But I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, we're here on this planet to have a human experience, and like the human experience has ego. Yeah. So like to say it's like not here to teach us something, ego is here to be like the master of testing us, basically. So this is something that I've been pondering a lot in the last couple months specifically. And I think a lot of us who are on this self-realization journey, this like spiritual awakening journey, whatever you want to call it, this introspective like mental health journey, we find ourselves like going through this process because of what we talked about earlier, some sort of trigger, some sort of aha moment, some sort of change that led us to opening our eyes and reflecting on our like autopilot that we've maybe been living for the first 20, 30, however many years. And then I am realizing that there is actually 2 phases of this, and a lot of us in the like personal development world are getting stuck in that second phase. And that second phase is, oh, well, I'm doing all of this inner work. I like know better. Oh, this person is projecting their emotions. Oh, that person like is so out of touch with themselves. And in that process, people are essentially like putting down folks that are maybe in that first phase.
Yeah.
And that actually is a byproduct of ego as well, right? Because you're basically saying, oh, I'm better than you.
I've been doing the inner work and you haven't.
Yeah, you're not at my level. You're not on my level.
Because I can get caught up in that too, like personally. And I've been in situations and I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Like it's not that I'm better than you or anything. Everyone is in their different phase.
Yeah. And so there's this whole like piece of when people are down this rabbit hole, we want to learn everything. I mean, I just listed all the random things that I've learned over the years, right? Because we want to be like, okay, like once the first time you go to therapy, right? You're like, why am I like this? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
And you're asking all those questions. And eventually you get to a point where the next phase of realization is, but does the why matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter why I'm like this? Does it matter like where this is coming from? There's a period of acceptance, right? Like of accepting reality and now living in that new reality. And I think that's the third phase of actually like detaching yourself from this new identity you've given yourself and then saying, all right, so like, that's cool. I'm glad that I broke myself out of autopilot, but now like let's come to terms with like how we want to move forward. Like this is what drives me. This is what I want to be doing. And I'm not going to like look down or look up at all of the other things.
Yeah. Wow. So how do you think ego influences our behavior in both positive and negative ways?
I think that like ego is what drives us to like, I mean, I think we process 2% of all of the information that surrounds us at any given time, right? And so the ego does a job of like bucketing that information. It's like, you are in Austin, you are a podcaster, you are a wellness expert, you are a content creator. Like it puts you in that bucket, right? But you are so much more than that, right? But people use ego to kind of define, okay, this is who Karishma is. Is she important? Is she not important? And then they kind of like, and I think we get scared too on the flip side when we're even interacting with people, wanting to make sure they put us in the right bucket.
Yeah. Especially with people who you consider like at a higher level than you.
Right. But also, why are we considering them? It's like we're attributing that piece as like more, right?
Caught me in it. Yeah. It's true. Like, oh, that's so funny that you say that, because we are also in a space, in the content creation space, where numbers, like high numbers of followers or engagement, all that stuff means so much to people, versus all that could be taken away. Who are you?
Yeah.
That's what I asked myself that. That's why I'm like, that stuff doesn't matter. It's who are you at the end of the day. Yeah. Just because you have a number that is really big, that doesn't mean that's who you are.
No. And it's what they say about even like how expensive something is, right? It's like something is only as expensive as the person willing to pay for it, right? Yeah. The Stanley cups, like.
Yeah. I have my bootleg Stanley.
Amazing.
Simple modern.
Nice.
I love my simple modern cup.
But yeah, right? Like it's a cup. But at the end of the day, it's the marketing, it's the branding, it's the value that we have attached to it. And it's the same thing for people as well. And I think that's where like ego kind of like, it is trying to help us navigate the world, and it's putting all of these people, situations, environments into these blocks. And it's helpful because otherwise we're inundated with a lot of information. But it also like, lately I've been thinking about the quote, good at like, what is it? The path to hell is is the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And we as individuals, we think that we are better than the next person, right? Nobody thinks they're inherently bad people or doing, and if they're doing something quote unquote bad, they usually have a justification for why they're doing it. And so it's like, you can be going to hell doing quote unquote good things.
Yep. That's so funny you say that, because I have had this conversation with my therapist many times, because he's very into like that kind of like ego, the good, and because there was like a point in my life where I was like, no, this person's good, this person's bad, and then he would ask me like, who's really good and bad? Do good people do bad things? Because we do. Do bad people do good things? Because they do too. So how are we determining who's good and bad?
And who are we to determine?
Who are we to determine who's good and bad? So that's a really good way to put it too, because we're not all saints. We've done some stupid stuff. We've done bad things, and we will continue to make mistakes. That doesn't make us a bad person or a good person, you know? So who are we?
I don't know.
What are we?
Well, you know what's wild? Perspective is everything, right? And so when I was renouncing the Web3 world and the tech world for a moment of time, I also went out and did a 10-day silent retreat called a Vipassana.
Which I can't believe you did that too. I remember you telling me, and you told me to join you, and I'm like, I'm a podcast host. How am I supposed to stop talking for 10 days? I can do 2 days, but
no, you got to do 10. It'll hit you, and you'll be like, I need to go do this. But until then, I'll just share my experience.
Yes, please do. Tell us everything.
So there was one piece that I want to highlight. And it was this beautiful story that was talking about a person, right? And so I'm going to kind of paint a picture.
Okay.
So say there's somebody that you just didn't get along with in high school. Okay? So think of somebody that you didn't get along with in high school. Maybe you got along with anybody, but just somebody random, okay?
Okay.
And then you go on and like live your life. You haven't seen this person in a long time. And then you run into them and you see them, and in your head, that person is still
that person.
Yeah, it's still a person you don't like. They could have been spending the last decade, working at an orphanage, at a nonprofit, taking no money and just doing pure good for the world. Yeah. But because of the impression that you have of that person from, how many ever years ago, that is the person that you expect them to be. Now, take somebody that you loved in high school, that you got along with so well.
And they're like...
And then fast forward to now, you see them and you're going to go approach them with the same love and like, that's how you're going to perceive them. But they could have gone out and like become like a murderer and like did all these negative things, and you would not know that, right? And so the person you are today is very different from the person you are yesterday. Yep. And so when we say, I like this person, I don't like this person, I like myself, I don't like me or whatever, we are talking about one specific moment in time. We are a different person at every minute, every moment, every day, every year. And so we can't be harsh about actions from before, but we also we have to give that same grace to other people as well.
Oh yeah, grace and compassion is the way to go on that, because I know we've all had our moments when we were younger, and we've probably encountered people that don't like us, and it's funny because it's so funny that I'm just gonna keep saying you're funny, because there's so many things that keep coming up right now. There was a time where someone messaged me on Instagram and said, hey, this person said so-and-so about you, and they said they didn't like you. And I said, well, I'm sorry to that person, because they probably met me at a time where I wasn't doing very well. Yeah. And there were a lot of moments where I wasn't mentally there, like where I wanted to be, and I wasn't at my best. And it was just so weird, like to go out of your way to tell me that this person doesn't like me because of a moment is insane to me. Because it's like, I'm not... people forget.
What's the point of that also?
Yeah, and people forget you're human. You're not always going to be 100% your best self.
You are not that moment.
No, you are not.
You are so much more than that.
You had something happen to you, and sometimes it comes, like, I guess, like, even this is a great example too, when people meet celebrities in real life and they have an off day and they're like, oh, I hate her, she was mean. It's like,
Yeah.
But what if they were just having what if her period just
I was about to say, like, what time of month?
Yeah, when my periods are, I'm a bitch. Like, and it's not towards anyone. It's just, I'm so angry.
Right.
We have shit going on, you know? So to conclude that, it's like, be kind to everyone because shit happens.
1000%.
And like you said, the moment is not who you are.
And isn't life much better if you give people the benefit of the doubt?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
people tell me I do that too much, and I'm like, but I just like
if you feel good about it, like, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a theory.
Okay.
You want to hear another theory?
Yes. We're all about the theories today.
These are all of my inner thoughts just coming out.
Yeah, go.
So this is my theory.
This is an open space. Whatever you want, baby.
So let's say we have like 5 parts of our world, right? We have our work life, we have our romantic relationships, we have our friendships and family, and then we have like our health. I truly believe that the areas that we are trying to control and focus on are the areas that are struggling the most. So there are certain people that really struggle to build friendships.
Yeah.
I used to be that person growing up. Like, I was bullied severely. Like, I had no friends growing up. And it's funny because people that have met me in the last decade would never guess.
Yeah.
But something switched, and I still don't know why, but I guess I don't care anymore. Where I feel like I can move anywhere and I'll make friends. Like, I truly believe that good people will be there wherever. And if somebody says, hey, like, I need to reschedule, or hey, like, I can't make this, my auto like thinking is not to be like, oh my God, they don't want to see me, or
Same.
they don't they're judging me, or this or that, right?
Yeah, because that's where your anxiety kicks in too.
Yeah.
Like I've learned to like push that away. Like, oh, people have a life.
It has nothing to do with you.
No. Stop taking everything personal.
Yeah, like,
That's
they
like
got
the slogan
busy.
of the year.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And I think because I have grace on that, I'm not like calculating, oh, they reached out to me last time. Oh, I visited them last time, and so they haven't visited me yet. That's honestly so draining.
Yeah.
But also, it's really like, it's kind of, you're creating a toxic environment for yourself.
Yeah. Like every time I texted you, because we were scheduled a few times.
Yes.
And it wasn't on purpose. It's because I was trying to
Yeah.
get this studio going. But I would schedule you, and I'd always say, don't hate me, which I know you're not going to hate me. I know you understand. It's
Yeah.
just, you just feel bad. And then you also don't want anyone to take it personally.
Right.
But it was literally like, oh, this was in the works right now.
Right.
That's why
And
it took this.
literally
I know.
0%
I know.
like took anything towards that, right?
I know. You're not that person. I'm
No.
not that person. So, but it's just so natural
Yeah.
to just say that, right?
But it's because we trust
Yeah.
that good people are
Yep.
surrounding us,
Yep.
and that people will show up for us,
Yeah.
and people have good intentions. We
Yes.
trust that with friendships,
Yeah.
we give benefit of the doubt. Now, like, I could take work situations or romantic situations where like I struggle with that a bit more. And so that was my theory, that the areas that we like try to control and manage and we overthink are generally the areas that are not doing as successfully or as thriving as they could be in comparison to the areas where we're like, wake me up in the middle of the night, I know Krishna's gonna be there. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
You tell me, you call me, my phone might be on Do Not Disturb. I'll try to see it. I am half insomniac. I will show up for you. So on that note of personal, not taking anything personally, how would you tell someone like to not take things personally? Because I think that's one big thing in this, I think this current social life that we're in this world, in this year, people take things way too personally, and they just go with it. They just think everything is like directed towards them. Like, how would you give advice? And then I'll jump on it after to not do it.
I would say all you can really do is what's in your control, right?
Yeah.
And so think about what is the outcome that you really want from this conversation, right? Like, do you want to resolve it and like become friends? Do you want them to understand where you're coming from and just like move in your own separate direction? I think that should inform how you approach it. I think that's where ego can come in as well, where we feel like we have to say X, Y, Z and get those points across. But if they're only going to hurt somebody and they're not going to be productive in the outcome, is that something we should really be saying? So that's one question. But 2, I would say just be as open and transparent and say like, look, I truly did not mean for it to come across that way. This is where my head was at, and this is why I did XYZ. You don't have to explain yourself, but if you want to, you can.
This is
right?
the way, yeah.
And if you are as open and transparent, and if you know that wasn't coming from a place of maliciousness or malintent, I think people really respect that. And if they don't, then they have their own projection in the work, and like, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to show up as authentically as you can. How someone perceives that is not your responsibility.
I couldn't on that. That's a mic drop right there, because I couldn't agree more. If I've been in many situations where I've told the truth and I get backlash like, oh, you just don't care, or like, it's like, no, it's not about that. I just can't give you my energy right now. Like, I want to, but I just can't, you know? Like,
this is what it is, though. People are like stuck to an old version of you, maybe a people-pleasing version of you.
There you go.
Or something. Yeah. And so they want you to bend over backwards for them, and you're like,
but I can't do it anymore.
I don't want to do that.
I'm kind of getting older and tired of it, and my energy gets drained very easily now. And also, I think like when you're in a creative space like we use so much energy in those spaces that people forget that we need to go re-energize. That's why I go and sit alone sometimes on the weekends. I just want to be in my little house with my dogs.
Under the blanket. Watching Love is Blind.
Yes. Today's the new episodes, by the way. We need.
Oh, yes.
After this, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, I think that's another thing. People are, what is the word? People are, what did you say?
People pleasing?
Yeah. People are addicted to your past version. Not addicted. What was the word you used?
I don't know. But they're
you know what I mean?
Stuck to that.
They're stuck. Yeah. There you go. They're stuck to your past version, and they don't want to see that you've changed or grow. It's so sad.
I think it comes down to if you are feeling like you're living a certain life, and I think people at different points in their life are going at different speeds, right? And if you are trying to keep the same 5 people from when you were born to like when you die, it's very challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Very challenging.
That's why people say like it's those that are closest to you that sometimes struggle with success. Right? And I have some amazing friends that I've grown up with that are like cheering me on. Yeah. But there's definitely folks that have like had to fall to the wayside.
Yeah, same. Because they just can't handle you growing up, becoming different, becoming successful, or doing whatever you want, and they tend to hold that narrative against you.
But it's also okay, right? Like,
it's totally
they were there for that chapter, and that's beautiful. And I have so much appreciation for when people were there, and I wish them wholeheartedly the best.
Hell yeah.
And there might be a point in time where our paths reconnect, and we are on the same wavelength, right? And so allowing for that like rubber band to like, stretch and come back together is kind of a beautiful thing as well. You just don't know where that's gonna when or if that'll happen.
And that's on taking nothing personal. Yeah. I literally posted
full circle.
Yeah, it's a full circle. I posted a reel today, like, people, you might unfollow people, you might just because you unfollow people, it doesn't mean you have beef. Just because you let go of friendships doesn't mean you have beef. It's just, it doesn't work in that timeline of yours. Like, at that moment, it's just not it anymore, and that's okay. Letting go is actually really good for you if you need it.
And then if you're struggling with it, just do some tapping.
Just do some tapping. So with that, we're almost done here. What are some ways? I know you've already shared how many ways you've been taking care of yourself, but what are your top ways right now in your life?
So
that you take care of, like, that have helped you take care of yourself?
I am an Ayurvedic junkie. I love all things Ayurveda, and for me, the one thing I need consistency in is like my morning routine. Yeah. And I do like some basic like dry brushing, a little bit of like mostly like I like
dry brushing in the morning before showering.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'll do my like mantra practice, and so like just adding sound and like saying some basic ohms and just like putting that like sound and vibration out into the universe is like so powerful for me. It really grounds me. We'll do some breath work, pranayama, and some light yoga. If I can do that, I feel really good. If I can get a proper workout in, great. But if I can at the bare minimum like do that, I feel like I did something for myself.
Yeah.
And then that makes me feel like I can tackle what is coming in the rest of my day.
I love that.
Yeah.
A good morning routine. I'm learning that since last year, that good morning routine and good night routine is what keeps me grounded.
Yeah. I'm still working on the night routine.
I'm working on both, but don't get me wrong, but it's a work in progress,
Yeah.
like everything else is in life.
Yeah.
But that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
I need to start some. So I went to a sound bath class.
Ooh.
And it was life changing. I don't know if I was sleeping or awake. Like I couldn't even tell. Like it rejuvenated me. It was insane. Like I want to go back and do
Girl,
it.
we can do a whole nother episode on quantum physics and like
Okay.
vibration and sound because there is so much there.
Yeah, it was like through my body. People are gonna think I'm insane, but it's real and it works.
Yeah.
But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
There was so much value in this episode and so much insight. You shared so much cool stuff with me. And the whole tapping, I can't wait to share that with everyone.
I had so much fun. Thank you for holding space and asking these like really important, interesting questions.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah.
It was a good episode.
It was fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in today and listen every week on Tuesdays for new episodes. Love you so much. And it's not selfish to take care of yourself.
Yeah.